Yeah, I'm looking at the whole business. I'm not looking at what to buy necessarily at this time. I'm just looking at the whole business and how I might get involved in it with Icon Enterprises in a relatively big way, because I do think it's here to stay in one form or another. I think
relatively big way. What does relatively big way mean, Carl?
Well, a big way for us would not be to buy a few coins or something, you know. I'm not going to buy a few coins. I don't believe in trading the market if I can help it. You know, I've learned
hundreds of millions, billions. Is that what we're talking?
Yeah, I mean, it could be. I mean, a big way for us would be, you know, $1 billion, $1.5 billion, something like that. But that would be a sort of a big way, I guess, for us. But sometimes we go bigger than that. Sometimes a lot smaller. But so I'm not going to say exactly. But to get back to the, I guess you know way to really get back to the concept. But a lot of these other things, though, I think out there are overvalued. There's no question about that in my mind. But that doesn't mean that necessarily. And I was saying about cryptocurrency, to get back to it, I don't think there will be a lot of the survivors that are out there trading today in it. You know, I don't think so. I think there's got to be some form of really feeling there's safety and value there.
So Carl Icahn is going all in on Bitcoin. Last night, Apple hinted that they're getting all into cryptocurrency. PayPal opens its wallet to allow for inter-wallet movement in and out of their ecosystem, and GameStop is building on Ethereum. All this, and Bitcoin, have a look at this, cannot get convincingly over the $40,000 level. Guys, are we still in a bull market? That's what we're going to be talking about today. Today on the show, as I mentioned to you, I've also got Raoul Pal live, and I told you guys, I want to find out from Raoul how much of an altcoin degen he is. I mean, you guys have heard his story. I mean, you've all heard the Raoul Pal story. And if you haven't, go to YouTube, go to any podcast, Google his name, and you'll hear the same podcast about 80 trillion times. And you can hear his story, and you can hear how he got into Bitcoin and how he went from only in Bitcoin to what it sounds like being all in on ETH, or more bullish on ETH. And then he started tweeting these tweets, show me your best alts. I actually even created a portfolio for him. Freddie, we should call out that portfolio. I think it's on our website, on the calls. There's a Raoul Pal portfolio that we once made when he asked for altcoin calls. So guys, massive show here today. As always, I'm Crypto Man Run. I come to you every single day, 6 a.m. EST with the sniper, the man that doesn't miss a shot, and 10 a.m. EST with a big news fundamental show. And together we combine fundamentals and technicals to make you the richest community in the entire world. If you're new to our channel, welcome. Where the hell have you been? Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and hit the bell button. I'll tell you why. Hit the bell button because it tells you when we're coming to you. And now with the markets doing what they're doing, we are coming to you guys a lot more than normal. Weekend streams, late night streams, early morning streams, every time we have a call. We're also introducing a new segment of a show, and that is that every time that we make a big trade, or we think that there is a big trade, we're going to go live, show you the charts, show you why we're going in, and then we're going to actually even start executing trades with you guys online, using that coin panel tool that we used on Sheldon's show, which actually shows you how you can get your whole trade in one entry button. So you press the button once, and it's got your whole trade with stop losses and profits and everything else. Another reason to subscribe to our channel is because we are the only channel in the world that have the Banter bags. And yeah, we gave away the Banter bags. Winners from Banter bags 1 have actually been paid. They got paid yesterday and today, so they've got their tokens. Certainly those that have vested or that have come out, they've already got, and they're going to be getting more tokens as the tokens vest. And now we're launching Banter bags 2. What is Banter bags 2? Well, we took $10,000. We invested in pre-market allocations that generally are very hard to get your hands onto. When we get to 500,000 subscribers, we give the bags to the community. We'll select. How many winners are we selecting? Fred says 20. I don't know. What do you guys think? Fred says 20. Last time we chose 10. We gave it to one charity as well. Let us know what you guys want. Let us know whether we should give it to 3, 10, 20, more. No, not 1. 1 is too small, Freddie. 1 is too small. 100. 100. 100. So 100. Okay, so 1, 10, 20, 3, 100. Yeah. Also, if you watched the earlier show, we were trying to find a girlfriend for Sheldon. In the chat, if you are single, Sheldon's DMs are open on Twitter. Sheldon's emails are open. Just be careful because his mom is his PA, and so she reads all his Twitter addresses, all his tweets. His mom reads. So please be careful. You guys have killed him. You've blown up the entire inbox. He got 8,000 emails. And now, Sheldon, before we get Raoul, I want to ask you a question. How many times have you been propositioned since your last show?
That's a lot. It's a lot. I'm still trying to actually go through all of them.
You said you have a date in New York. You have a date in the Ukraine.
Yeah, there's a few in Australia, Miami, definitely 2 from New Zealand. There's quite a bit. There's actually a lot to still get through.
Let's start the show with a Bitcoin chart. You told me the Bitcoin chart was breaking out, and while you're talking about the Bitcoin chart, I'm going to bring on someone who really believes in charts. He actually says that he can't make a move without the charts, and that of course is Raoul Pal. Raoul Pal, welcome to Crypto Banter, my friend.
Great to be here. Looking forward to this.
Everyone says that my house, my filming studio looks much better than your filming studio. I mean, they compare it. They say that this looks much better than that.
But yours isn't yours, and this is mine.
Okay. Okay, I see where the show's going to go. I kind of see the tone of where the show's going to go. Let's get into the fun and games of it. So this is what I brought up in the earlier show today. I know that when we're in a bull market, in fact, hold on a second. Something doesn't feel right here. There's only 10,000 people in the stream, and usually it's like 20,000 people in the stream. So I'm going to check how many people have liked the stream. Freddie, how many people have liked the stream? Raoul, how's your maths?
Pretty terrible, but go on. I've only been in finance for 30 years, but with bad maths, that's fine.
If there's 10,500 people watching a stream and only 4,000 people like it, how many non-smart people, dumb people are watching the stream?
I'm not saying anything. They're all amazing.
They're all amazing. Smash the like. You are the most amazing community. Let's get this video out there. Let's get everybody talking about Raoul Pal on Crypto Banter. Help us make this the biggest channel in the world. We are already in the top 3, but we need to become the number 1. We have to become the number 1 crypto channel in the world. Sheldino, show us what's going on. Why is Bitcoin is breaking out, finally?
Oh, it's looking good, Ron. Obviously,
exactly as I have been predicting.
Yeah, it's going to plan. So everything is looking good. That's why I was very happy yesterday. We didn't sell off on Bitcoin yet. We haven't hit that high we needed to hit just yet. And now we're well on our way. It looks like we're finally starting to get some good momentum to the upward side. And we're looking good for the $41,000 to the $43,000 level. And from that zone, we'll then see how we react there. And we'll then be making a decision if there's a good farming stage coming up, or if we're going to go straight through to the 48,000.
Okay, now, are you still calling that head and shoulders with a slight pullback where you said you're going to
to
43?
For now, yes. It's still I still feel like there's a decent pullback coming. You know what? After the big drop we've had in the market, for it to recover in a matter of 1 week just doesn't make that full sense. And especially understanding the emotion cycle and where we should be in this range a little bit longer. So I see one more strong pullback, and then we can start making our way up to the $48,000 level, and then we'll obviously see from there.
Well, I know you're a chart man. When you look at this chart, are you in agreement that after the big crash, I don't know, call it crash, call it correction, call it whatever you want, and we will talk about that. Are you in agreement that this thing's going to come down one last time and then go up? Do you still think we're in an upward cycle?
Look, I think I look at it as a balance of probabilities. I think the probability is it pretty much exactly as Sheldon says, it kind of grinds higher, has a bit of choppy range, digests a bit more of that, all of the price action that we had, and then goes higher. There is a downside risk that this is kind of a wedge pattern and we have another shot at the downside, which we'll probably reject pretty quickly. So it's not clear. It's not out of the woods yet. I don't trade it, so I just hold it. So I don't really care. But I do it I watch it for amusement.
Amazing. Sheldon, we're going to put you in the waiting room. We're going to keep calling you in and out as we do with every single show.
No problem, buddy.
Nothing without our chart sniper, as we've realized. Well, I want to carry on this discussion with you. you mentioned that you think it's going to go up again, and you sound pretty bullish, and you don't sound like this is the beginning of a long crypto bear market like the one we just went through. Why is everyone still so bullish after we've broken through every technical indicator? We've gone down a hell of a lot. We went down 50% on Bitcoin, and we've just recovered. Why is everyone so positive that we're still in this raging bull market?
It kind of is still within its logarithmic trend. So it's kind of just moving around within the range once you look at it in a log chart. So that kind of works for me. Also, you know, all of us got in the background the stock to flow idea and a whole bunch of other cycle stuff, and just kind of general technicals just suggest that it's just a correction mid-market. And in this year, if this is supposed to be the big year, then we should see some of these moves. And for me, I love these corrections because they're out of the way. Because then you can think, oh, okay, fine, don't need to think about that again. So we should, you know, it should just continue higher over time. So, you know, again, my projection for Bitcoin for the end of this year is north of 250,000. So I think we've got a lot of action to come.
What makes you think that north of 250,000 is quite a specific number? It's quite a specific figure. You're effectively saying that Bitcoin is going to 8x from where it is today in the next 6 months.
Yeah, so every post-halving cycle, Bitcoin does roughly the same thing in the final year of the post-halving cycle. You generally get this big correction sometime in the summer, and generally it tends to 10x from there. So that's normal. If I look at the log chart projections, it gets me out to about 400,000 maybe on the upside by the end of the year, March of next year. Stock to flow ratio gives you the same kind of thing. So everything kind of suggests that. It looks crazy now, but Bitcoin's a crazy market, right?
So when you saw the market coming down 50%, at any point, I mean, this is, if I'm not mistaken, this must be your most serious Bitcoin correction since you entered the ecosystem, right? I mean, have you seen a correction?
No, I started in 2013, early 2013 or 2012.
13, 12. Okay, so there was one correction that was bigger than that, or two.
Yeah, but I also went through an entire crypto winter.
Yes, like we all did.
Yeah.
Okay, so at no point did you have any concern. For you, it was like, okay, market's coming down. I'm a long-term hodler anyway. I'm not trading in and out.
No, because look, you know, everyone's heard me bore on about this all the time. Wall of money, right? It's not like it's a bunch of retail passing a bag to each other. It's actually real investors with real size buying every dip. And it's like, and most of them still haven't onboarded yet. So they've got all these institutions, they take fucking forever to get themselves set up. But once they get there, they will allocate capital over time. So all I know is there's more capital coming.
So Willy Woo posted a tweet when this correction happened. In the tweet, he said that he showed a chart of who was actually buying this. And he showed that the people that were actually buying the dip were no coiners, people that had never owned crypto before. Do you think that was institutional buying? You mentioned that it takes time for the institutions to get set up.
I think it's both, because there's a bunch of retail who look at the price and think, oh, it's too expensive for me, which is obviously silly because you can buy it in fractional. But a bunch of others were looking at it. My guess is a bunch of hedge funds pulled the trigger because they love stuff like that, right? There's a bull market. They understand there's all this money coming into it, and you're given the gift of a 50% correction in the middle of that with no real change in fundamentals. You take it.
Okay, now I know your background is like you're a hedge fund guy, you're a traditional finance guy, you've seen it all. The reason that was cited for this correction, if you look at all the data kind of shows this market was over leveraged. So you had a whole lot of people that took too much leverage on Bitcoin, on Ethereum, playing 10x leverage, got liquidated. That formed a spiral of other liquidations, and that's what caused everything to come down so quickly, and also to chase away the weak hands from the market. Having seen that and seen the traditional world, do you think that this market is actually over leveraged? Do you think that the fact that the retail investor is playing in this, do you think this market is an over leveraged market?
It is an over leveraged market, but it's different. I mean, I know it's over leveraged because the guy who cuts my hair, young Filipino guy in the Cayman Islands, you know, him and all his mates are wildly punting, 25x, altcoins. And I'm like, wow. So that's fine. But what's different about it versus the traditional system is it's kind of over collateralized. So everyone gets stopped out. They laugh about it. It's very typical of the space. People but basically joke about it. You see it all over, Reddit as well. people find it funny. They kind of understand the risk they're running. So it's not like dumb retail who don't understand the risk. They know it's a punt and it's a mad punt. But if they get it right, they can make some good cash. So I get it, but it's also not systemic in the risk, because it's not like massive whales with huge leverage that then seeps into the banking system. It just doesn't work that way. So it's actually a lot better, a lot easier. So leverage is going to be a feature of this market, but it means we get a lot of volatility, which is also good, because if you know where you are in the trend, you could be a buyer or a seller and take advantage of it.
I think I agree with you. Leverage is an unbelievable feature of any market. I mean, you can't deny that, because it's actually what drives markets. But usually leverage is in the hands of sophisticated institutions, sophisticated investors. I mean, you don't see people, the average retail investor doing 100x leverage on, I don't know.
Because
Apple.
the difference is crypto doesn't have open-ended losses. It gets
Crypto,
liquidated.
It gets liquidated, yes.
Yeah, in traditional markets, that doesn't happen. They kind of call you up and say, hey, guys, you owe us some margin. And you're like, well, I can't afford to. My house is for sale. I've just sold my wife because I've got a liquidation. So you have to sell assets. And that's what's called a margin call. Margin calls don't happen in crypto. They just automatically just close you out of the position.
Yeah, it's automatic liquidations. That's where most of the retail investors actually lose their money. They go in, they buy a Bitcoin, they own a Bitcoin, they put the Bitcoin up as collateral, and then they take 10x leverage on the Bitcoin, and then bang, they get liquidated, and then they're out of the market, and they kind of caved and don't.
And also, those algorithms are pretty complicated, right? So, you know, I was kind of running a paper portfolio to try it out on BitMEXC, and I got liquidated in a bull market when I was up. I'm like, well, that shouldn't happen. But it's just the mutualization of liquidation. It's kind of all a bit weird. I'm like, forget it. I just don't use leverage. It's a lot easier.
I take it that your thesis on Bitcoin remains the same. And I think everybody, if you want to hear Raoul Pal's thesis on Bitcoin, just Google his name and listen to
I'm
one.
bored of talking about it, so that's fine.
The thesis, though, is the very boring part of the thesis is that the government keeps printing money. It's out of control. And for as long as they keep doing it, they devalue the dollar and they revalue a whole lot of other assets, primarily stocks and limited supply.
Yeah, and we're not talking about the dollar, like dollar versus the rand. We're talking the dollar as a currency, or even all fiat currencies, because we're seeing it because Europe's doing the same thing, Australia, the UK. So it's that fall in the purchasing power of fiat currency.
Okay. Do you think that the governments could have done something better than they did, given the situation, having closed down economies because they had to, because that was the accepted solution? Now, in hindsight, I mean, we all criticize them for printing so much money and giving so much stimulus and destroying the dollar and revaluing assets. Is there anything in hindsight that they could have done differently or should have done differently?
No, I don't think they didn't have any choice. Interest rates were pretty much at zero in most places. They had to do something because the whole world had shut down. So given the same choice, I think all of us would have done the same thing. I know there's a bunch of people on Twitter who say, the Fed, they should never cut rates. Yeah, well, try going through that and not cutting rates and seeing what it does to the global economy. It was already the worst recession in all recorded history. So, no, it is what it is.
What do you think their plan is now? I mean, when they sit at the Fed meetings behind closed doors, they're not stupid. I know that some people from the Fed follow me on Twitter. They know that we're complaining about the fact that money has been printed. What do you think their plan is? I mean, how do you it's easy to get money into an economy. How do you get the money out of the economy? What's the plan? What do you think their plan is? The plan is not to get it out. They know they can't. So the idea is, how do you manage all of this without it blowing everything apart? So we've seen this, is we should have had, in that recession, everything should have fallen apart. Markets went down for a month and then went up like a rocket ship because they devalued the value of money. So they've kind of got this mechanism. And what they figured out also is they can do direct transfer payments to people. So the government and monetary and fiscal policy have now combined. So it's a big thing. So how do they get out of this whole mess? Well, they kind of have to keep going. They hope that they can get enough inflation over 20 years to erode it away. And that's about it, really. I mean, they don't really have a choice. Effectively, they're stealing from the future. They are, if you're talking about enough inflation for a couple of years, you're basically saying they're stealing from the future. They are.
Also, yes, and also what people can't get their heads around is this rise in asset prices means that you could buy a smaller house than you could have done a year ago because the value's gone up. And what are savings and investments? Future consumption. So somebody's robbed you of future consumption when you retire and you sell that house or that investment. And people don't understand why rising asset prices and the way that it's happening isn't a good thing. It's because everybody who's young is getting screwed here because everything's become more expensive to have an investment.
Okay, now I read something the other day, which Zero Hedge published, and he published about something about the banks not taking enough money from the central banks. It had something to do with a reverse repo rate. Something about a flood of money that people actually weren't using, that's available, that they want to use to stimulate the economy, but that people aren't using. What is that all about? I mean,
basically, the financial system is kind of overcomplicated because of the regulations after 2008. So banks are very specific in what they're allowed to do with certain things, where their share price is, what their balance sheet's doing, what's happening. And so you can give them money, but they actually can't use it. And it's kind of weird. And the Fed created it to try and create buffers, but it also means that monetary policy doesn't work. In Europe, it's even worse. So the banks are completely broken. And they're so hamstrung by all of this regulation, which is why they gave money directly, essentially, to the government, who gave it directly to individuals, because you need to bypass the banking system. That's what central bank digital currency is all about. It's bypassing the banking system because none of it functions.
Okay, so I mean, it's a bleak picture, and I know all of us on Twitter like to participate in talking about this bleak picture and rah-rah-rahing about how bleak the picture actually is. But you know, every time I've lived through these moments where people are passionate about the collapse of something, it seems to always recover. Do you think that there's any chance that this is really like the end of the dollar, or do you think that that's just a couple of 100,000 of us on Twitter all preaching about the end of the dollar, the end of the dollar, the end of the dollar? But in reality, the dollar's going to be here for the next 20 years and it's going to be okay. I mean,
yeah, I think the balance of probabilities are, if you went through the biggest economic crisis in all history with a massively levered system and it didn't fall apart, okay, what is the end game? What more do you want? Thermonuclear war? So even I was very surprised at the economy was terrible, but what it did for markets and stuff. And we need to separate economies and markets. So, yeah, I just don't think that probability is there. Devaluing the value of the dollar and magic. Assets go up. Everything's fine. And nobody gets the joke is the fact that everybody's actually getting poorer because of it, except the few who have all the assets already, which is why crypto is so interesting, right?
90% of people don't get that they're getting poorer every year. So they're okay with it. And the few people that have assets...
Well, they're not okay with it, as you've seen. Populism. They know they're getting screwed somewhere. They just don't know how. So the people on the left blame the people on the right. The people on the right blame, the immigrants. Everybody's blaming somebody, and they don't realize what's actually gone on.
Yeah. So Ray Dalio at Consensus, he came out. He spoke about the fact that he owns Bitcoin, and that's, I think, what everybody was focused on. In fact, I want to play you the interview here. Let's quickly just play it for the guy that haven't heard it.
But I don't know whether you guys are actually bought any Bitcoin, but I certainly know that you're interested in it. We've certainly.
I have some Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin's greatest risk is its success. Because as it becomes more, right now, it's not such a big deal. And, fighting it is more of a big deal. And that's it, because it's not that big a deal. As it becomes a bigger deal and more of a threat, let's say people want to sell their bonds and they want to buy Bitcoin. And they want to do that in a bigger way, like buying gold or something in a bigger way. And then there's more transaction. They lose control over that. And that's an existential risk.
I guess I know we've both bought into this that Bitcoin will replace gold one day, disrupt gold, replace gold. The more you listen to Michael Saylor, the more you realize that Bitcoin may actually replace stocks, a large amount of stocks and a large amount of bonds. Do you agree with Ray Dalio that the growth of Bitcoin may become its own worst enemy, in that government right now are looking at this and going, it's a $1 trillion asset class, which is not really disruptive. But at $5 trillion or $10 trillion, it's starting to threaten government bonds. It's starting, would rather put their money in Bitcoin than hold government bonds or corporate bonds. And then it actually does start to become a big threat.
I've always said this. Once it starts getting over 10 trillion, governments really care. Are they going to stop it? Can they ban it at that point? No. But they care because it becomes a global asset class that matters. But don't forget, the equity market's like 200 trillion. The bond market's like 250 trillion. So this is noise still. And I know everyone thinks like Bitcoin, it's going to take over the world, but it's still minuscule. It's $1 trillion. I mean, it's nothing. So, yeah, he's right. People will care about it. If it does it too quickly, the governments will care about it. But if it goes up over time, they're fine with it. I mean, it's not like they care about gold. I know people say, "Oh, they're conspiring to keep down the price of gold." I don't believe that at all. But they've existed alongside gold forever, and it offers the same kind of way of getting out of the financial system. So I don't really think it's as big a deal, particularly if the financial system builds on it all. And by the way, I knew about this whole Ray Dalio thing 9 months ago.
You knew 9 months ago that he had bought Bitcoin, or that they had bought Bitcoin. Look, I think that a lot more people than we think have bought Bitcoin. I think a lot of them are sitting on the sideline. I mean, Facebook had a shareholders meeting. Everyone thought that they would announce that they were holding Bitcoin. Apple I don't know if they made an announcement, but they posted a job which had the word Bitcoin in it, and everybody speculated they're now going all in on crypto. I just know a lot of the conversations that I'm having with everybody. So you kind of know, because I get people reach out to me, I have conversations, and you kind of then suddenly it's announced over time. So everybody's looking at it. Everybody. Are there still skeptics? Are there still in 2017? Everybody was a skeptic. In the beginning of 2021, there were very few skeptics. When I speak to people now, 1% of them are skeptics. Are you feeling the same thing when you hear the conversations? Are you feeling that right now we're over skepticism and it's how am I going to do this? I've got to get through the regulatory hurdles. I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to store it. Versus, no, I'm not going to touch Bitcoin. I don't understand it.
It was. I think you're right. I think we got to something like 10% skepticism. So I think the ECB, the European Central Bank, spread the ESG FUD because European investors have a mandate, an ESG mandate, and it's taken extremely seriously. So all the ECB had to say is, hey guys, look at what you're doing. This looks like it's a pollutant and it's dangerous for the environment. Are you sure you want to do it? Because the ECB wants to slow down adoption while they roll out their own central bank digital currency and get this kind of control, regulation of the system. So I think it's the ECB.
So what do you think the flow was between ECB and Elon? Because Elon broke the FUD, right? Elon was the center point of the FUD.
No, it came before.
Okay.
What happened is, don't forget, Elon is applying to be a part of the US carbon credit system, a new one that's being built. So how better can you do this by saying, if the US government said to him, hey, listen, you can't have all this Bitcoin and apply for this permit, and or he thought he was going to get questioned about it, there's no better way than create more FUD around it, get the market to clean it up, and then he's able to just move forwards once the narrative's cleared. I think he knows what he's doing, and it was done on purpose, to get that credentials that he needs to be part of that, because Tesla's a large part of their revenues of these carbon credits, government subsidies, and also he also knows that it's a red herring. I mean, he's not stupid.
Okay, I mean, you say he knows what he's doing, and you say, I think what you're alluding to is that he's very calculated in his approach. He's not. What do you make of him and Dogecoin? I mean, do you?
He's calculated.
I used to think that the Dogecoin thing was a game, but I mean, this game's going very far now. This is
It's not a game, and the reason being is he's figured out pretty quickly that anything can now have value in this world, right? If a bunch of people think it's got value, And these cryptocurrencies have all these attributes of being able to exchange things, buy things with them, store things. And there's a joke one that happens to be a meme. Elon understands the meme economy, right? He's really into it. So he figures out, how funny is that? You take the worst ever coin, which is a joke. You then start adopting it and then buy a bunch of it. And then you would basically have your own Elon coin.
Crazy.
Now, he could then also have it for streaming payment system within Tesla. There's a number of things you can do with it when you have your own coin. He could raise capital because of it. So I think he's figured out pretty quick that if you have your own currency, you can be king.
But then if you're going to have your own currency, why not have your own currency that's technically very sound?
Because it had already been adopted by the masses. So millions of people are using it and they think it's amusing. How much publicity does that give him for his own currency? It's great.
So
now, whether it works or not.
Are you saying, am I hearing you right here? Are you saying that you would consider investing in Doge?
I own Doge.
You own Doge?
Yeah.
Good. Raoul Pal just said on Crypto Banter that he owns Doge. My producer says we all do. Am I the only guy?
Everybody does. Find me somebody who doesn't. We all do, because it's fun.
So you think that this Dogecoin is actually it's a serious thing? It's a real thing?
I have no idea. So I'll trade it like a call option. I have a small position in it because it's fun to see what happens with this. Because we don't know what the outcomes are. We don't. So it could end up being something massive. I mean, Mark Cuban, he started accepting it as payment for Dallas Mavericks merchandise and tickets. So now it's got payments. It's got millions of people invested in it. So what happens if Tesla builds an application? Now it's got application, an exchange, and investors. You've got an ecosystem, a network, and that's valuable.
Wow, okay. Is your position in Doge significant? I mean,
no.
The
smallest position I've got.
The smallest position you got. Okay, so what I'm getting the feeling here that you're actually an altcoin degen. I mean, I'm not
a degen because I don't trade them.
I mean, yeah, but you're a degen. I mean, if you're holding Dogecoin, hold on, just wait. I remember that in the beginning you only spoke about Bitcoin. You were only a Bitcoin speaker. Then I remember that you had the epiphany that ETH was actually just another network, and it was a cheaper network on a relative basis than Bitcoin. I remember that tweet storm, we actually covered it on the show. And then I remember that you started asking people, you said to people, I'm going to put a small part of my portfolio into alts. What alt should I be buying? How does your portfolio look now from a breakdown? How much is in Bitcoin? How much is in ETH? And how much is in degen?
Yeah, first you need to understand, why was I doing that, right? And in traditional markets, once the established trend takes place, you move out the risk curve. So for Bitcoin being like government bonds, and then you go to Ethereum, which is like corporate bonds, and then you go to junk bonds, which is all of the other stuff, right? And then private sector lending. That's a risk curve. So I'm just moving out the risk curve because the trend's established. And I know that in a bull market, ETH will outperform Bitcoin and alts will outperform ETH. Now, the ETH Bitcoin bet is easy because we know ETH, it's a giant, it's got massive network adoption, at least twice the rate of the network adoption of Bitcoin. And we've seen the whole rise of DeFi, NFTs, everything on top of ETH. So it's a great bet. So I'm 55% ETH, 25% Bitcoin, and 20% alts. So I got to that alts thing. Why did I ask that question? I wasn't asking, I didn't care who shilled me anything. I wanted to see which coin. Go on.
You wanted to see consensus. You wanted to see what the masses were talking about. You wanted to gauge social sentiment.
Yeah, and network effects, right? You wanted to see what networks are stronger. So that was the start. So I picked a basket of the bigger ones of those and just took an equally weighted basket. I've got no clue whether Cardano is going to work or Polkadot's going to work and get network adoption. Literally have no idea. So I don't take a bet in that. I just took a bet in a bunch of them, figuring that if we're in altcoin season, this stuff's going to go up 5x that Ethereum goes up.
Talk me through the process. So I remember the tweet. I actually made a portfolio for you. I'm going to try and get the portfolio online today. I tweeted it at you. I said, hey, we've made your portfolio. This is what you should be buying. I'm actually very interested to know how that portfolio is doing, by the way.
I had 11,000 replies to that tweet.
Okay. So you took 11,000 replies. By the way, I know you think that that's good, but Sheldon had 11,000 marriage propositions today because you get 11,000 replies. What do you do then? And how do you build an altcoin portfolio from that point?
I basically kind of just perused through that for a few days, saw what was coming up a lot, wrote them all down in a list, went to CoinMarketCap, took a list. No, I actually, even easier, I went to the brokerage that I was using, took a list of which ones I could trade from that were larger in market cap, and just bought them. And it was as simple as
the reason why you went for larger in market cap, because you said, I want liquidity. In the event that I want to trade out of it, I want liquidity.
No, I just thought, I don't know anything about these other ones and how speculative they are, but I know there's serious money and stuff within the Polkadot ecosystem and the investor base and stuff like that. So nothing complicated, just like a relatively bunch of blue chips in this space. But then after that, I've been going more degen in other stuff.
You have been going more degen in other stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about your, I'm just having a look here to see if that portfolio is still live. Let's talk about the big cap altcoins that you bought in your altcoin portfolio. You mentioned Polkadot.
Yeah.
Have you done enough research? Do you know enough about the parachains, or you just bought this purely on sentiment and on volume?
Purely on sentiment and volume, and I wanted a bit of DeFi. I wanted a bit of exchanges. I wanted a bit of protocol, so I just did a basket. So I just, obviously at top level, I kind of know, was this a serious project or not? So you are kind of right. But a bunch of these I don't have. Like, I would never buy bird money.
Yeah, so I made this for you back then, and even after this correction, that portfolio is up 125% since I made it for you. I put in Chainlink, Polkadot, Arweave. What I did was I tried to mix some big ones and some small ones for you. And you can see at the time, the entry price, for example, on Terra was 92 cents. I actually created that, and that portfolio is up 124%. It was up much more, but obviously with the correction, that's what happened. It's ironic. It's been on our website. We actually log all our calls on our website so that people can't call us out afterwards for saying, you didn't tell us, or you did tell us, or you shouldn't have told us. We're accountable. So we have it here on our website. You can go and have a look at it. It's Crypto Banter calls. That's pretty much where it is. It's the portfolio I made for you back then when you tweeted. I'm interested to know how this portfolio did relative to your actual portfolio that you bought.
So I'm trying to think, because I haven't looked at it since the correction. I don't check my P&L on this, but at peak, it was probably up 285%. So it's probably up still 150.
So more or less the same. All right, so let's talk about the coins. Polkadot, what else is in there?
Well, but there's Aave, and there's synthetics, and there's sushi, and there's just the usual stuff. Cardano. No, there's nothing that people go, oh my God, Raoul Pal owns this. There's some other stuff that I'm more interested in, but that stuff, it's just the standard shit that everybody's got that shills at me all day on Twitter.
So one of our commenters says, Raoul Pal, we anoint you the king of degens.
And I've never traded any of it. So I just bought it and held it. So I haven't traded anything, and I'll just run it like that.
The reason why you don't trade, is that because you fundamentally are taking a view and you don't think that you can outsmart market timing, or is it just because you don't have the bandwidth?
Actually, having run hedge funds and traded a lot my whole life, in a market like this that's very volatile, you tend to screw it up by short-term trading it because you get stopped out when you should be adding and stuff like that. So I know if something's going to go up 10x or 20x or 50x, what's the point in trying to eke out even more? And it just frees your mind that you can just leave it. It's different if you think, oh, it's going to go up 10% this year. Can I turn that into 15%? That's a whole different game. It's just not worth it here. It's just like in an exponential move, just buy and hold and go to the beach.
Yeah, I guess that's similar to the Michael Saylor thesis around Bitcoin, where he says, why should I go out and farm for 6% when I'm making my thesis? I'm going to make hundreds of percent.
Yeah, I don't do any DeFi. I've invested in some protocols, but I don't do any DeFi because my point is I don't really know the risk, and I don't care about 6% yield.
You know what I think? I think that, first of all, DeFi is not really about 6% yield. There's much higher yield, but you have to know exactly what you're doing, and it's a full-time job. I think there's an evolution, and it's all about how much time and effort you want to spend versus time and effort you want to spend somewhere else. It starts off with Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is the safest investment. And then you dip your toes into ETH, and then people follow the same path that you and I followed, where then we start going into major altcoins. And I guarantee you that in 3 months, when we get you back on the show, you'll be asking me for allocations in brand new ICOs, because that is the thing. But I think there's a lot more money in DeFi. It just requires a lot of concentration. I know people that on stable coin returns are generating 70% yield per annum. And that is because they're actively farming a yield. Now,
but you don't know what the full cycle risk is. And I keep talking about this and people don't listen. You have no idea what the actual finalized yield is going to be. So it looks good now. We don't know. So for me, it's like, I don't need to do it. And I get it. Some people can do it really well. I know a bunch of people who do this amazingly in DeFi, but it's too complicated, too much hassle, when I can just buy and hold and make myself a cocktail.
Yeah, I agree. Buy and hold and make a cocktail. What cocktail would you make? I mean, if you were making a cocktail, what would it be?
My kind of go-to cocktail here when I got friends over is a Hemingway daiquiri, which is white rum, a bit of fresh lime juice, fresh grapefruit juice, and a bit of either sugar syrup or triple sec to add to it.
My producer's sitting here doing this. Freddie, you can go back. I mean, let's just quickly get into the news, just because we've got to cover the news. Big news yesterday, Apple's job announcement that they need someone. Let's actually call it up. It said, Freddie, if you can get rid of the comment, it would help us a lot to read the summaries here. It says, it said something about you need to know something about Bitcoin. It's about financial services. Do you think that Apple Pay is actually getting into Bitcoin? Do you think Apple's getting into Bitcoin? What do you speculate there?
Apple, I don't know at corporate treasury level whether they've got across the line yet. And there's reasons why. It's about accounting and how you hold up on your balance sheet. So I don't think they're there yet. Apple Pay is different because obviously Square and PayPal are in it. Apple don't have a choice. So of course.
Why do you say that there's financial issues with holding Bitcoin for a company like Apple? How is that different from a company like MicroStrategy or Square?
They all have it. It depends whether you're able to have the volatility on your quarterly earnings. Now, because Square being, Jack Dorsey's vehicle and basically MicroStrategy can do whatever Michael wants to do, they're prepared for that on their balance sheet. Something like Apple that is owned by so many people, and suddenly the volatility of your earnings is driven by your Bitcoin holdings, that kind of upsets investors. Now, it means that they need to make an accounting standard change, which I think the corporate treasurers will push through over time. And then once they do that, they can kind of keep it off balance sheet, so you can mark to market once a year or whatever, and then you don't have to have all the volatility of Bitcoin on your balance sheet.
We know that corporates are looking to buy Bitcoin, and that's the foot in the water. But it seems now that the volume of Ethereum is much bigger than the volume on Bitcoin. It seems like the funds, the traditional guys are waking up and they're saying that the volume on Ethereum is actually starting to eclipse the volume of Bitcoin. Do you think that corporates are starting to wake up to Ethereum as much as Bitcoin? I get the thesis of protecting your cash in Bitcoin, but do you think that some of them are starting to actually enter ETH and saying,
well, you got to say which part of a corporate. So if it's a corporate balance sheet that looks to protect the cash the firm has earned, well, Ethereum doesn't really play a role there yet because its narrative is not about the store of value. Bitcoin's an easy thing to put in instead of a bit of gold or instead of a bit of whatever, right? ETH doesn't really fit into those portfolios yet. Now, maybe after ETH changes and we get through ETH 2.0 and it becomes a, lower supply asset, it's a harder asset, and maybe the narrative changes. So I don't think it's necessarily going to go on corporate balance sheets unless it's corporations who will be using ETH for future development, which is, we're starting to see. We saw Reddit using Ethereum to build out their token system. So I think we're going to see it, but for different purposes.
I know you're a massive fan of network effects. I know that you're a massive fan of Metcalfe's law. You keep talking about it, and you keep talking. I think you're really one of the people that really understand the network effects in the game. Network effects also dictate that there's not going to be many networks that do the same thing, right? So that you often say like one chain should win or two chains should win when it comes to smart contracts. Do you think that there are going to be many smart contract chains in the future, or do you think that there's going to be one or two and they're going to absorb most of the network?
I mean, usually everything works the 80-20 rule, right? Which is Pareto's law, that 20% will capture 80% of the economics. I don't see why that wouldn't play out over time here, because we're humans. If I'm a corporate and I need to build a blockchain solution for my business, am I going to choose a protocol? Am I going to choose Hedera, or am I going to choose Ethereum? If my job is on the line, I'm going to go to my boss and say, "Well, I've chosen Ethereum because it's the biggest and most liquid." Right? It just accrues. It accrues that way. Now there can be step changes. Things can change. But generally speaking, it works that way.
Amazing. Listen, I know that you've got a call. I know that you mentioned that you've got a hard stop. So first of all, thank you. I think it's been great fun. It's been great fun seeing the other side of Raoul Pal, not the story that everyone's heard a million times, talking to you about more current things. I actually want to invite you again to any time to speak about news, current affairs, basically just chit chat about what's happening on the markets. I think the community.
You didn't ask me where I'm allocating to in alts, and so my answer to that is community and social tokens, the metaverse. That's where I think.
Cancel your call.
That's where I think this is all going.
Cancel your other call. Let's quickly talk about that. So community, metaverse, and?
That's basically community and metaverse are the two macro bets that I'm actually taking within the alt space. The other's not a macro bet, it's just a basket, right? It's just a dumb money basket, Raoul's dumb basket. But I'm starting to take bets on where I think this is all going, which I think it's all going to be the really big consumer applications are going to be both metaverse and social tokens.
Give me some examples of social tokens.
No, they're too small, too illiquid, and I don't want to be a shiller. So I don't really want to do it.
We degens. But when you talk about community, without saying the name of the token, give us an idea of what you mean by a community token and by a metaverse.
Well, the bigger one that's more liquid that people know about is Chili's.
Yes. Okay.
I mean, that's every major football club in the world is using that as a way of running their entire fan base. Now, that's going to happen to music artists. You will end up tokenizing. I will end up tokenizing. Real Vision. Everything is going to be. Every community is going to be tokenized.
Would you buy my token? I mean, if I tokenized and I gave you a SAFT, would you take an allocation?
Probably not.
No. Fred, what is he? Which token is he talking? He said he's told us it's a small cap, which is similar to Chili's. We need to dig deep because Raoul Pal's invested in a small cap. When you talk about metaverse, I mean, talk to me about metaverse. I'm assuming you're talking about NFTs when you talk about metaverse. I'm assuming you're taling about a second world. I'm
talking about the decentralized, the sandboxes, the Red Fox Labs, the Axie Infinity, all of this stuff that they're building out a world in.
Wow. Okay. Amazing. Listen, I know you've got a hard stop, so I don't want to keep you. I know you have a call. Thank you for coming on to Crypto Banter. Thank you for sharing all your deep insights and your altcoin bags and everything else. As I said, love to have you back here talking about news, talking about chit chat, stuff that's going on in the market. Fred will be.
Yeah, and also if people want more stuff, go to Real Vision Crypto, and there's tons of free content there about all of this stuff, with all the interviews with all of the founders of all of these projects. Everything is all there.
And you can also get the Raoul Pal story again. If you missed it the last 8,000 times, it's there. There is a description in the YouTube link. There is a description at the bottom of the YouTube. Go to Real Vision. I mean, there's a lot of value there. There really, really, really is a lot of value. I think is it free or is it $1?
Real Vision Crypto is free. The rest is $1 for a trial, and you get crypto and everything else added in, and it's $250 a year. But crypto's free, so knock your socks off. Go there.
All right, guys, let's show Raoul Pal how the strength of this community. I'll tell you, we featured a book here 2 weeks ago. That book is now a bestseller. We featured a trading app here, and that trading app has crashed because it's got too many users. So guys, let's go break the Real Vision site. It's in the description of YouTube. Just go there, smash it, break the site. Let's make Raoul Pal build another site.
Love it.
My friend, see you soon.
Take care.
Okay, thank you, my friend. That was a lot of fun. Guys, I hope you had fun. I'll see you guys again at 6 a.m. tomorrow with Sheldon Show. 10 a.m. tomorrow with... tomorrow's Banter. Yeah, Friday's Banter. So who's coming on to Banter? George, Elio, Wolf, Biz, me. We need a woman, Fred. We said no. It's too much testosterone, bro. We need females in the Banter. Okay, guys, if we can't find a female guest to put onto Banter, we're bringing Irina. Irina's going to be here on Banter tomorrow. You'll see Irina on the Friday Banter with Elio, with George, with me, with Biz, with Wolf. You know, we haven't had Kyle. Irina says she'll see you tomorrow. Go, Irina. Go, Irina.
That's brilliant.
All right, guys, we'll see you tomorrow, 6 a.m. EST, 10 a.m. EST. Until then, much love for you guys. Had lots of fun with you guys. Guys, we got Raoul Pal to say that he holds Dogecoin. I mean, that's going to become a meme. I can see Fred's already cutting the video. Yeah, it was a great show. Freddie, well done for organizing, Raoul. Leah, Sheldon, all the guys that made it happen. Well done. Guys, see you tomorrow. Love you guys. See you guys all tomorrow. Until then, trade well, my friends.
Crypto Banter is a social podcast for entertainment purposes only. All opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers should not be construed as financial advice. Views expressed by guests and hosts do not reflect the views of the station. Listeners are encouraged to do their